Hello everybody, thanks for joining me here on SleeplynComics. Today I have the most ambitious video I've ever done. So I've been thinking a lot about grading comics like people do in the physical world. A lot of people have asked me about it, and a lot of people have asked me about the value of low minted comics and the rarity. So there's so many different questions. And people are looking for one answer when really there's lots of answers. So here's kind of the conundrum from my perspective. We have three different ways that we examine comics. And so it's hard to wrap our hands around that when we're trying to explain it. So the three things that we're trying to figure out all together are rarity. So that would be common, uncommon, rare, secret rare, etc. That's the one thing. The second thing would be the number minted. So there might be 60,000 minted, there might be 20,000 minted. And the third thing is, of course, when you're looking at a specific comic, it has a mint number. It might be low, it might be high. How does that play into it? And so when you're trying to come up with terminology to encompass all of that, it's difficult. It's really difficult. And really, you want to do that because as a community, it would be easier for us to communicate value to each other. And so if we can do that in a consistent way, I think that saves time. The other thing is that it allows us to do estimation. When we kind of don't have a way to standardize how we're looking at things, then it's difficult to build tools around that. So what I want to propose today is my solution. Solution is probably too strong a term. My thoughts on it. And I wanted to present them. Obviously, this is a discussion. It'll go out into the community. Maybe people can look at it. Some people may agree, disagree. It doesn't even matter to me. But it's the beginning or maybe continuation of that road where we attempt to figure out how we're going to talk about NFT comics, how we're going to value them, and then in the end, of course, how we're going to price them. So there's going to be three parts to this video, and it might be a little bit longer video. I apologize. Okay, there's going to be three parts to this video. The first part, I'm going to talk about terminology. The second part, I'm going to talk about kind of valuing it based on that terminology, and and then my last bit is going to be my conclusions on it all. So let's get right to it. Okay, so this is how I think we should describe comics, and really we would describe them in three ways. I'll put them up here on screen. It would be the name of the comic. So let's use Marvel Comics 1 would be the first part of it. The second part of the terminology would be the rarity. So uncommon, common. And then the third part about it is, I would say we use these terms Top 100P, Top 50P, Top 25P, Top 10P, Top 5P, Top 1000, Top 500, and Top 100. Now, what does that mean? Okay, it means Top 100P means that this comic is in the top 100% of all mints. So that would be, any of the comics basically that are minted. Top 50P means it's in the top 50% of all comics. Top 25P means it's in the top 25%. Now, why am I using these percentages? We're using the percentages because, well, for two reasons. Number one, there's different, number minted. So as we know, Amazing Spider-Man 1, there was 60,000 minted. And with Daredevil 1, there was 30,000 minted. So when we say this particular comic is a uncommon top 50P, that means that its mint number is in the top 50% of all of those minted. But all those numbers are really hard to explain to somebody. So if we could just simply say, hey, this is a 100P or a 50P or a 25P comic, people are like, whoa, okay, it's a 25P. That's in the top 25% of all mints. That has value. And of course, if it's a top 10P, that's a top 10% P. Now, why don't we just say the mint number? Because, as we know, when they're printed on the blockchain, it's by random. So if you're looking at a rare comic, and let's just say there's only 5,000 of those, maybe the earliest minted of the 60,000 is mint number 51,000. So if you say to someone, hey, I have a rare 51,000 mint, they're not impressed by that. Even though that literally could be the first minted rare comic which would mean it would have a lot of value. So that's why I'm using this terminology. Let me talk about it again. So like a top 5P comic would mean it's in the top 5% of all mints. That is significant. The last three, like I said, are top 1,000, top 500, and top 100. And we drop the P because it's not a percentage at this point. When you say top 1,000, it literally means it's one of the top 1,000 minted on the blockchain. Top 500 would mean it's the top 500 minted, and top 100 mean it's the top 100 minted on the blockchain. So that is a super rare and probably expensive comic. So once again, I'll explain that. Let's take a secret rare. Most secret comics have 600 secret rares. So the first secret rare on the blockchain, let's make it up, might be number 522 minted. And the next one might be 1055. So mint number, whatever, 525 or whatever, that is the very first secret rare printed. In my mind, that is the most expensive of all of those of that comic. And I'll explain some of the value later. That's the terminology that I think we should use going forward, and it will help us. Now, here is the problem. I don't know which of the mints go with which rarity. So for example, Daredevil, there's 600 secret rares, and I think there's 30,000 total mints. Is the first secret rare 522, and then the next secret rare is, 10,042? We don't know. And there's actually only one way to find out. Well, one way would be to ask Veve, and I'm going to ask Veve. Maybe they'll tell me. They probably won't, but we'll try and have them tell me. But another way is to ask people, which I'm not afraid of that. I trust the community, and actually, I'm going to talk a lot about that later, about how we can all work together to find out which mints go with which rarity. But another way to do it, which I did for Marvel Comics #1, is to go look through the marketplace. So what I did is I literally went to Marvel Comics, went to Secret Rare, and scrolled through and typed in all of the mint numbers that are for sale in the Secret Rare. And I could continually do that for the next, 5 months. And I would get a bunch of them, but I doubt I would be able to find all of the mint numbers, because a lot of the people are just not going to put their Marvel Comics Secret Rare up for, on the market. So I won't know the mint number. So we're going to have to guess. So I think, we could have people report and it's kind of like an honor system. But that's the problem. I do think eventually over time we would get them. So I certainly believe we could figure out the mint numbers for the secret rares. Common obviously is difficult. So, but I think that would be valuable. So then you would know, okay, I have mint number 24. That is the first mint in that rarity. That is the most valuable comic that we have. So that's what I'm proposing, that we use this terminology and we go and find all these mint numbers and the rarity. I've started that process, and I'm open to other people having ideas on how we would gather those. And before I really wanted to do that work, which I'd be willing to do, and maybe there'll be some others to help me, do people even believe in what I'm doing? Does it make even any sense? And so I didn't want to do a lot of work, and then people are like, that's stupid, Sleepin', don't ever do that again. So, it might be fun for myself, right? And I do a lot of things that I think are fun in terms of, doing mathematical algorithms or whatever. But this one I think would maybe be too painful that I wouldn't want to do it unless other people believed in it. So why don't you tell me your thoughts below in the comments? Obviously you can tweet me also, or I'm on IG as well, SleeplynComics. I'd be happy to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think this is something that makes sense? Do you think that it would be valuable for the community? Because if it is, I'll do it. And I think in the end, what we probably need is a website. We need a website where people can go in and enter their rarity and mint number. And once again, it's kind of like the honor system. I don't know. Maybe we can figure out some way to validate it. I don't know what that is. The other way would be to ask Veve, which I'm going to do. And then the next step, okay. And I'll cover more of this in another video, but I want to touch on it here, because why would we do all this? Well, I do think it's valuable because it's valuable for the buyer and the seller, and in my mind, then we should probably do it. It's valuable from the buyer's perspective because you're like, hey, I'm going to spend a bunch of money on this, secret rare comic, and it's mint number 42. I think that is the first one, but I'm not sure. So it might be valuable for the buyer to know. Secondly, it's valuable for the seller because if they can say, hey, this is a, top 20P comic, even though the mint number is, 37,000, that's valuable for the seller because, they could charge more money. I do think that, and like I said, I think it's pretty much proven now that lower mints are more valuable. I have done some numbers on how much more. I'll present those later. But even to build those spreadsheets, we need to have some of this other information so that I can gather that to do analysis. In other words, if I don't know what are the top 5% of rarities on an ultra rare, how can I do numbers to try to figure out what the value should be? So that's why I also think it's valuable. So what are my conclusions here? My conclusions are, I think we should develop a terminology beyond just the mint numbers in how we talk about comics, because that terminology will help us share the value of the comic beyond the mint number. And so I think this, using the notation, 50P, 25P, telling people that this comic is in the top 25% of all mints, I think that's valuable. And so I'm really interested in what people think. I hope they understood what I was saying. I went fast here. I did my best. If you have questions, I can definitely do a follow-up video. I will answer questions below in the description. Please let me know your thoughts on it all. And let's see where this takes us. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll talk to y'all soon.